Hi guys, good afternoon. I wanted to talk about the press conference today. We had a lot of stuff to cover on what he said. So what I did was, it's difficult to go through all of them in a quick manner. I'll talk about this on the live later on. I did a live on the press conference. So what I wanted to do was do a chat GPT. So I asked them questions about the facts and where he was wrong and misleading and they were false. So I just want to go over that with you today. Okay, so here it is. Okay, let's just go through it, and I am going to say it out loud through the audio. So please pay attention, and you can see all the things where he's wrong. And actually, I don't know why the reporters don't do the same thing.
Absolutely. Here's a beefed up fact check of the DC security press conference. I list the speaker, what was claimed, why it's false/misleading, and the best current evidence. If you want this as a sortable spreadsheet after, say the word and I'll spin one up. Key false or misleading claims. 1. Speaker, President Trump claim. I'm invoking Section 740 of the Home Rule Act to put MPD under federal control, framed as an open-ended takeover. What's wrong? The DC Home Rule Act allows a temporary emergency federal direction of MPD. It's not a blank check for indefinite control. Typical guardrails: notify Congress after 48 hours and seek approval beyond the short window. News and legal coverage characterizes the action as temporary/emergency and disputed, not a permanent handover. NBC4 Washington, The White House, The Washington Post. 2. Speaker, President Trump claim. DC is worse than Mexico City and Bogota, #1 in the world for murder. 41 per 100,000. What's wrong? DC's homicide rate spiked in 2023, 40/100K, and has improved in 2025. It's not the world's highest. Bogota and Mexico City are lower than DC's 2023 rate, but many cities globally are far higher. Also, DC violent crime in 2025 is down year to date. The Washington Post, MPDC, NBC4 Washington, USA Facts. 3. Speaker, President Trump claim. 3 months in a row we had 0 border crossings, 0 illegals in the last 90 days. What's wrong? CBP reports tens of thousands of encounters monthly in 2025. 0 is flatly false. U.S. Customs and Border Protection +1. 4. Speaker, President Trump claim. I raised NATO to 5%. It's already paid. We don't pay anything anymore. They're paying us for everything we send. What's wrong? In June 2025, allies pledged a 5% of GDP by 2035 target, 3.5% core defense plus 1.5% broader security. It is not already paid, and NATO doesn't pay the US. Each country funds its own budgets. NATO Reuters Atlantic Council. 5. Speaker, President Trump claim. I stopped Nord Stream 2. Biden came in and approved it. What's wrong? The Trump administration sanctioned NS2, but did not stop a near-completed pipeline. The Biden administration waived some sanctions in 2021, then reimposed sanctions in February 2022 after Germany halted certification. The pipeline never entered service and was later disabled by 2022 explosions. Congress.gov Axios, The White House, AP News. 6. Speaker, President Trump claim. We'll bring in the military if needed, implying broad domestic law enforcement authority. What's wrong? The president does control the DC National Guard, but use of active duty forces for domestic policing is constrained by the Posse Comitatus Act. Broader deployment typically requires the Insurrection Act. The briefing rhetoric overstates that latitude. Time. 7. Speaker, President Trump claim. The murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, thanks to this team. What's wrong? 2024 saw a national decline, and 2025 indicators in many cities are improving, but lowest in U.S. history is unsupported. DC's own 2025 YDD shows declines: violent crime -26%, homicide -12%, not historic national lows. MPDC NBC4 Washington. 8. Speaker. President Trump claim tariffs brought in $400 billion from China/hundreds of billions a month are pouring in. What's wrong? Peak annual U.S. customs duties were about $100 billion, FY 2022. Monthly receipts are not hundreds of billions. Economists and Treasury data show tariffs are paid by U.S. importers and largely borne by U.S. firms/consumers. USA Facts Bureau of the Fiscal Service PBS Tax Foundation. 9. Speaker. President Trump claim there's a 10-year law from the early 1900s. I signed it. If you touch a statue in D.C., you get 10 years. What's wrong? The 10-year penalty comes from the Veterans Memorial Preservation and Recognition Act of 2003, 18 U.S.C. Section 1369. Trump didn't sign the statute, Bush did. In 2020, Trump signed EO 13933, directing enforcement of existing laws. Legal Information Institute Congress.gov, the American Presidency Project. 10. Speaker. President Trump claim EU has spent $100 billion on Ukraine. Biden approved $350 billion. What's wrong? Credible trackers put U.S. commitments roughly in the $150 to $180 billion range, depending on inclusions, and Europe, EU institutions plus members. Roughly 150 billion euros plus total aid. For strictly military aid, recent snapshots show Europe is almost equal to 72 billion euros and US is almost equal to $65 to $70 billion. Nowhere near $350 billion US alone. UkraineOversight.gov, Kiel Institute, USA Facts. 11. Speaker. President Trump claim DC crime is totally out of control. That's why we must federalize MPD. What's wrong? MPD's official dashboard shows 2025 YDD crime down, violent crime minus 26%, overall minus 7%, versus 2024. That undermines the premise of a uniquely spiraling emergency. 12. Speaker. Defense officials/surrogates supporting remarks claim we can use the National Guard and federal agents for day-to-day policing citywide immediately. What's wrong? Federal agents routinely assist on federal matters and federal land. Guard roles are narrow under DC command relationships. Turning them into general local police raises legal limits and civil liberty concerns. Even the takeover authority is bounded and contested. The Washington Post time. 13. Speaker. President Trump claim NATO's 5% means the U.S. doesn't pay anything now. Allies are paying the U.S. for what we send. What's wrong? NATO targets our national spending goals. There's no mechanism by which allies pay the U.S. The pledge is about members funding their own budgets and some shared NATO budgets, largely by 2035. Reuters NATO. 14. Speaker. President Trump claim zero crossings plus crime is exploding, used together to justify a sweeping DC emergency. What's wrong? Both prongs are contradicted by official data, CBP and Counterstats, and MPD's dashboard, respectively. Emergency framing is political, not evidentiary. U.S. Customs and Border Protection MPC. 15. Speaker. Various claim we can end cashless bail and charge juveniles like adults here immediately. What's wrong? DC isn't a state. Its criminal justice framework is a mix of local code, federal statutes, and U.S. attorney charging policies. Some proposals floated at the presser would require legislative changes, not just executive orders. Context from reporting and recent DC crime bill debates. Expanded fact checks from the DC presser, high impact items. Speaker. Donald Trump claim he can put MPD under open-ended federal control via the DC Home Rule Act. What's wrong? The authority is temporary and narrowly bounded to emergencies, not a standing takeover of local policing. AP's same-day reporting and legal coverage describe a short-term emergency move, already drawing challenges. AP News. Speaker. Donald Trump claim zero illegal border crossings for the past month/90 days. What's wrong? Even with steep declines, CBP has reported thousands of encounters in recent months. Zero is false. The White House Newsweek. Speaker, Donald Trump claim, NATO 5% is already paid. They're paying us. What's wrong? The 5% is a 2035 spending target by each ally, core defense plus security related, not money already paid to the US. NATO doesn't pay the US. Members fund their own budgets. AP News Council on Foreign Relations Politico. Speaker, Donald Trump claim, DC is #1 in the world in murder. What's wrong? DC's 2023 homicide rate was high, but nowhere near world leading, and 2025 YTD violent crime is down versus 2024 per MPD dashboard, reporting cited in coverage. AP News. Speaker, Donald Trump claim, tariffs delivered hundreds of billions or $400 from China and pour in monthly. What's wrong? Treasury tracked customs duties peaked around $100 annually in recent years. Trump's recurring bigger numbers have been debunked repeatedly. Tariffs are paid by U.S. importers and passed through to consumers. Factcheck.org, The Washington Post. Speaker, Donald Trump claim, 10-year statute on vandalizing monuments is an early 1900s law he signed. What's wrong? The 10-year penalty is 18 U.S.C. Section 1369, 2003. Trump signed a 2020 EO to enforce existing laws. He didn't sign the statute. Factcheck.org. Speaker, Donald Trump /surrogates claim he can use the military broadly for local policing in D.C. What's wrong? The president controls the D.C. National Guard, but routine domestic policing by active duty troops is constrained by posse comitatus unless the Insurrection Act is invoked. Coverage emphasized those limits. AP News. Ballroom remarks why they don't track. At the presser, Trump said the White House needs a ballroom and that it's coming. That's irrelevant to the DC crime/statistics discussion, and the capacity of the press briefing room, a workspace, has nothing to do with a ceremonial ballroom. News reports note he opened with the ballroom aside. Newsweek. Context. The White House East Room already serves as the largest stateroom for events. The new ballroom proposal, announced July 31st, 2025, is a $200 million 90,000 SQ. FT edition aimed at seating 650 versus the East Room's 200. Regardless, it has no bearing on DC policing authority, crime trends, or whether the press room was packed. The White House, The Architect's newspaper WHHA and US. Unilateral Putin meeting without Ukraine/EU/NATO. What he said/indicated, he's proceeding with a Trump-Putin summit in Alaska with no Ukrainian participation and without allied alignment, while floating ideas like territorial land swaps. Why that's wrong/misleading. Multiple European leaders publicly warned that the path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine. Excluding Kiev contradicts the core diplomatic principle of nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. Time Yahoo News. Reporting the day of the presser shows the meeting framed as a Trump-Putin one-on-one, with Trump himself downplaying outcomes and musing about land swaps, which would reward aggression and dismember a UN member state in breach of international law and allied policy. The Daily Beast Financial Times. The White House's own messaging toggled between open to meeting both leaders and moving forward with Putin first, heightening allied concern. ABC News. Repeated false claims, unrelated to the presser, that Trump has kept repeating in 2025. These are outside the DC event, but keep resurfacing. Tariff revenue hyperbole, $2 B a day, $88 B in 2 months, inflated far beyond Treasury data. The Washington Post factcheck.org. Murder/crime bragging, historic lows because of me, national homicides have fallen, but the framing is exaggerated and inconsistent with past statements about crime stats. Factcheck.org. NATO money myths, they're paying us, already paid, confuses national spending targets with cash transfers to the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations. Border talking points, swinging from invasion to zero entries, the zero claim is wrong. CBP data contradict it. The White House. Economy/jobs distortions, e.g., firing BLS chief while citing false job number claims. Fact checkers flagged these as false. The Guardian. Grab bag exaggerations at major addresses, immigration, EV mandates, foreign aid oddities, social security myths, etc., flagged across AP and Walpo fact checks.
Okay, guys. So that is just a sample. We will go through more of this on our live, because you have to ask more questions to ChatGPT on things that were a little bit more nuanced. And that is why it's very important that we understand the facts in real time. So this press conference was at 10 o'clock. It's now 1 o'clock. So it is very important that we kind of get this out so you can see it without wasting any more time on what he's been saying. And we will go through more of this analysis on our live later on today. Okay? All right. Thank you.